Changes to the American economy. It probably doesn't sound like a very interesting topic, but this is one of the most relevant lessons we will have this year. U.S. History Content Statement 31. Improved global communications, international trade, transnational business organizations, overseas competition, and the shift from manufacturing to service industries have impacted the American economy. If you lived in America in 1700, there's a good chance you would have been a farmer. It would have been a very physically demanding way of life. You wouldn't have had much time for entertainment, and you likely would have been considered a subsistence farmer, meaning you farmed to survive, not profiting by selling crops to others. America's economy was considered an agricultural-based economy. If you lived in America in 1900, there is a good chance you or the breadwinner of your family would have worked in a factory job like the drawing here. It also would have been a very physically demanding way of life. You would have worked long hours for low pay. Although in the early 1900s, conditions would improve thanks to labor unions and progressive reforms. America's economy was considered a manufacturing-based economy at this time. As you near high school graduation, you will make a living, most likely not by farming or making something in a factory, but by providing a service. Maybe it is as a teacher or doctor or lawyer or electrician or in information technology. It could be in retail or food service. Whatever the field, today America's economy has shifted again, and now America's economy is considered a service-based economy. Take a moment to check where your shirt was made, or a pair of shoes, if you're wearing them, where they were made at. See if you can figure out where your computer or phone that you were watching this on was made. You can think of other items inside or outside your house, and many of them were made in other countries besides the United States. Another question for you. When was the last time you talked to someone from another country? Asking that question to a student in a Midwestern American school would have seemed absurd 100 years ago. But if we were in class, I bet a lot of students would have raised their hands with an example. Maybe it was a telemarketing phone call they received. For many, it could have been someone they played with during an online video game. The world is very interconnected nowadays, and people in different countries buy things from one another, communicate with one another, and share culture with one another. The American economy has been impacted by these many influences since the 1990s and even earlier than that. As mentioned before, global communication has increased through the use of technology. The development of the personal computer has allowed people to instantly communicate with someone from anywhere in the world. The growth of the internet and social media connects us like never before. And the mobile phone means that no matter where you are, you can contact or be contacted by anyone in the world. This increased global communication has changed our lives. For example, as a result of this increased communication, how do you get your at-home entertainment? Maybe it is through Netflix, Hulu, or a similar streaming service. How do you shop? You may shop in person, but likely you and others in your home do some online shopping through places like Amazon. Globalization is a term used to describe the change in the economy over the past 30 to 50 years. The entire world economy is more interconnected now than ever before. International trade, transnational business organizations, and overseas competition have challenged American producers and local communities. As you thought about where different items you use were made from earlier in this video, we see that American companies do not make everything we use. Producers increasingly import parts from their factories in other countries. We can think locally of steel as an example. Many American steel companies that produced steel in the early part of the 1900s suffered as increased competition from overseas companies from places like Japan and Germany sold more steel that people purchased, leading to the closure of some American steel companies. Cars are another good example of a product that would be a part of international trade if cars are bought from companies around the world. There is overseas competition for American car companies, and car companies could be looked at as a transnational business organization, meaning an organization that does not do all of its business in one place. Maybe they make some parts in one country, other parts in another country. Marketing could be done in one place. Research and development can be done in another place. But these companies truly are international, not solely focused on the production and development of their product in one country by itself. Time magazine, a few years back, had an article looking at where was my car made. And you can, on this website, we can see different cars and where they were made, how much of their car is American made. So the first one we'll look at here is the 2017 Ford Focus. The most recent year we can look at for any cars on this site is 2017. So the Ford Focus, Ford is an American car company, Michigan car company. The Ford Model T goes back to really, revolutionizing the way cars were made in the assembly line production. So truly an American institution. And it's assembled in the U.S., this Ford Focus. However, only 40% of the parts of the 2017 Ford Focus were from the U.S. and Canada. And the engine was American made, but the transmission was made in Mexico. Another car we'll look at is in 2017, the Chevrolet Cruze was still made in Lordstown, Ohio. So, assembled in the U.S. was assembled very, very close here in our same county as we live in. But 44% of the car parts only were American made. The engine was from Mexico. Transmission was the U.S. So it was just flip-flop there with the Ford Focus, and a similar percentage of parts were made American made, the rest being made in other parts of the world. We can compare this with the 2017 Honda Accord, which Honda is a Japanese car company. So where Chevrolet and Ford, those are American car companies, Honda is a Japanese, so it's a foreign car. However, the Honda Accord, we can see just like the Ford Focus and Chevrolet in 2017 was assembled in the United States. The engine was made in the U.S. The transmission was from Japan. But the Honda Accord, actually, more of the parts of the Honda Accord, 70%, are American or Canadian made, as opposed to the Focus and the Chevrolet, which were a significant percentage lower than that. So the Honda Accord could actually claim to be more American made than those American cars based on these numbers. But what this shows is it shows how transnational many businesses are nowadays, where if you're looking at something, whether it's American made or Japanese made, sometimes there's more to it than that as far as where all the parts and everything, where it's assembled at, come from. It may show that what you think is a product made in one country is actually mostly made in a different country. But that is a sign of the times. It's a sign of the way companies do business and how those companies really take more of a global approach to the production and sale and distribution of their products. A link to that article can be found on Google Classroom along with this assignment if you'd like to look up some other cars. Also on Tuesday during our Ed Puzzle, we will bring that website up, and you can give me some different car companies, car models that you'd like to look up, and we can find out where they were made. So globalization has had many effects. One of the effects of globalization has been a decrease in manufacturing jobs and closing of plants in America. Many of these manufacturing jobs have moved to other countries. And as a result, the Mahoning Valley has lost many jobs in the steel industry since the 1970s. And unfortunately, recently, also the area saw the closing of the GM Lordstown facility. Another effect of globalization is that due to competition from overseas producers, there has been a shift from manufacturing industry toward a service industry. As the graph shows, since 1960, the percentage of Americans who work in service industry jobs, such as restaurants and retail, has increased, while the percentage of Americans working in manufacturing jobs has decreased. Going along with the shift from manufacturing to service industry jobs is that globalization has led to a growth of lower paying jobs in America. Working a non-management position in a service industry job like at a McDonald's or a Walmart typically pays considerably less than a person who worked in a manufacturing job like at Youngstown Sheet and Tube. Another effect of globalization has been an increase in information technology jobs. As new technologies have been developed, jobs related to computers have increased across the country. A final effect of globalization that we will discuss is the increase in the U.S. trade deficit. As a nation, we buy things from other countries and sell American goods and services to other countries. Since the 1980s, as the graph on the right shows, America has bought more goods and services from other countries than we have sold to other countries. This has led to a trade deficit.